Ross and I'm the Head of Clinical Support at Health Assured. And today I'm joined by Indigo, and Indigo is our Operations Manager at Health Assured. So hi, Indigo.
Hello.
You okay?
I am. I'm a bit nervous.
It's fine,
it's good
so
to be
am I.
here.
It's okay. So Indigo, let's kick off and not actually kick off. Let's kick things off and talk about why you're here doing this podcast today. Because as we know, generally speaking, the council has joined me on the podcast.
Yeah.
But I am beyond delighted and really proud of you for putting yourself forward to come and do this podcast with me today. So tell me about why you did that.
Okay, lovely. So I think that race is really important, and racism is a topic that should never go away. We should always talk about it. We should always consider how other people feel, how we've potentially made them feel, and just understand more about everyone's culture and society as a whole.
Yeah.
With that being said, I'm a very small part of all the different races across the whole world, and I'm hoping that we can talk about, my experiences, and then people can relate to that, and maybe just give a bit more insight into, how people might feel or the experiences people might have in their day to day. But like I said, I am a small part of a lot of different races, and I can only speak about my experiences.
And on that, thank
Yes.
you, Indigo. I should have done this at the beginning, but just a potential trigger warning for anyone that's listening or watching. I imagine we might touch on some sensitive topics. And even as we're talking, there might be things that resonate with the listeners or the viewers, and it strikes a chord with them, and that's okay. So just a heads up, racism, mental health, two huge topics there. We're trying to merge it all together in 30 minutes, which is quite a huge ask. And, it could spur some emotions for people. So just a heads up for everyone. And, if you need to take a break at any point, just say as well. Okay, so I love I've said it already. I love that you've come forward and you want to have your voice and share your voice on such an important topic. And whilst, hands up, we're not going to solve the issues with racism and the issues that racism, the impact of racism on mental health, we're not going to be able to do that in one podcast. As we mentioned before out there, we are two more people having a conversation about such an important topic that weren't having it yesterday. So the more voices that are being shared and the more voices that are being heard on this topic, the better. And whilst you said, you are just one small part, you're still an incredibly important part, and you're playing a part, in a really good way. So thank you so much for that. So I've got, a couple of talking points, and as you will know from listening to the podcast and stuff before as well, just go a bit all over the place and, wherever the mood takes us. But I guess one of the first things that I want to touch on, if you're comfortable, is the challenges that you've been faced with because of your race, because of your ethnicity. You're a person of colour. What have you had to deal with, from on a daily basis or throughout your life, if you're comfortable sharing that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the biggest things for myself that I see people experience and that I see as one of the biggest challenges is institutionalized racism. And that's obviously when an organisation is treating someone differently or unfairly as a result of their race. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the organisation is actively doing something to that person because of their race, but it could also be removing opportunities or not giving them people opportunities. I also feel that it could be not encouraging individuals to take up opportunities. So as a person of colour then in an organisation, I don't see a lot of people who look like me in senior positions. I think I'm currently the only one. And then there's definitely not many of us, to the point where a colleague of mine, sent me a card once saying they were leaving. They said thank you for being that person that they could look up to that was also mixed race, and they felt that having someone in that leadership position was something that encouraged them to feel like they could also get in that position one day.
Yeah.
So I think that is something that I'm very aware of. I'm very aware of it when I walk into a room, that I might be the only person of colour in that room. And therefore that might come with people having particular thoughts of my, I don't know, stereotype, or making assumptions about my culture or how I might act. And you become very aware of that when you're in that space, which I think is quite sad. Because you should just be able to be yourself, and that be enough, essentially. With that then comes that, that stereotypical assumption that people make about someone because of their race. And I think that's a challenge that people face, is that sometimes if they're speaking up about something that they feel passionate about, they feel that they're going to be judged because of their race. And I think that makes it really difficult.
That's a lot there. That's a lot.
Sorry.
No, gosh, don't ever apologise. No. And one thing I was going to say as well, don't feel like, so at any point, challenge me at any point, because I feel a bit silly being here, on the other side, as I guess and I felt like this in other podcasts as well, cis white female, I am aware I have a lot more privilege, and I get that, it's, and I guess it's that, again, institutionalized privilege that is kind of born upon it, and challenge me at any point, or shut me down if I need to be shut down. That is absolutely fine, because I'm aware I might not be the right host here for this.
But you also might be the right host. I think it's really important that people ask questions, and people take time to understand. There's been a lot of things thrown around in the past year. Comments made about people, or comments made about races, things like all lives matter, that sort of thing. And I think what's really important is that, people are wanting to be educated on these issues, wanting to understand and wanting to learn more, regardless of what their race is. So whether it's yourself, or someone who does fall in as an ethnic minority, fall in that section, I think it's really important that everyone learns more about everybody's races and what they're going through.
Absolutely. And on that, so do you remember a few years ago? So obviously we both work at Health Assured and have done for a number of years. So we started the book club, the Health Assured book club. And I remember being absolutely petrified, because we started it with why I no longer talk to white people about race. Do you remember? And that was it was amazing book, and it like blew my head off, and for the absolutely all the right reasons. But I remember being absolutely terrified in that first book club session, like, oh my god, it's like, and it was silent in the book club session for the first few minutes, and the person that hosted at the time luckily had a set of talking points and questions, but you could tell people were really, really nervous about answering any of these questions. Turned out as well that literally the majority of the people that turned up were white people.
Well, on that, I saw that was the first book, and I thought, I love a book club. I've always wanted to go to a book club. I'm not going to that book club because I don't want to be the only person there who's an ethnic minority, who's answering all the questions for everybody. So I really didn't want to be in that position. No. And I would have been in that position where people go, oh, wow, Indigo, tell us about your experience. And I'm just trying to come to book club, guys. So I really didn't want to be in that position.
It's such a fantastic book, but it's a really difficult one to launch an internal book club on. And I remember some colleagues of mine that absolutely were like, I've signed up, but I'm not going. I can't go to this first one. Like, who am I to go to this first one? And even I was like, I can't do this. But then who am I if I don't go to it? I'm a person that some people might look up to being in a management role. Like, I don't know. Do I need to keep face and go? It was a really confusing time, but I know that some people were like, I can't do this because I'm going to make a fool of myself, or I'm going to offend people, or what have you. But as things went on, people got a little bit more comfortable in those sessions, and we chose books that were more taboo in that way, that it was uncomfortable. We almost like a painful experience for people to force themselves out of that. Sexuality, disabilities, gender, race, so it was great with that. But that is a hard hitting book to go first with when we hadn't really addressed race as a culture, organization, and I imagine that goes without saying in thousands of companies and organizations and institutions and things like that, education settings and private sector, even charities and not-for-profits. I bet it's the same there. And it's how do you initiate that into the culture and make it.
And it's some conversations, them uncomfortable conversations, and they are uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
I want people's to feel I want people to feel challenged. I want their unconscious bias to feel challenged.
Yes,
I want them to feel uncomfortable when they have them conversations, so that they get comfortable. If you're uncomfortable with something, the way you get comfortable is putting yourself in this position. This podcast, for example, very uncomfortable sitting in front of cameras talking about something like this. However, unless you do that and have the conversation, how will you understand what that means, what people are experiencing, or what it might be like next time for a podcast, for example? So people should, if they're uncomfortable,
do it.
Go to that. Learn more. Ask some questions. You might feel like your questions are ignorant. You'll learn some more. You'll go to the next event or the next situation in which you can learn more about the situation, and then eventually you might run out of questions, or you might get more complex questions, but ultimately you're going to get more understanding. And then people who look like me, don't look like me, different races across the whole world, goal is, isn't it, for everyone to feel understood, respected and treated fairly. And that can only happen when people have them uncomfortable conversations, or people who don't fall within their cultures take time to understand what it means for them.
So all these organisations, all these places, school setting, work setting, even, I don't know, social setting of some kind, maybe part of a sports club or something like that together, whatever. If you're nervous and don't know how to start bringing awareness and breaking that stigma because you're worried it's going to be too uncomfortable, rip that plaster off and just make it uncomfortable and everyone go through that pain. It's not the same as, but similar to an awkward or uncomfortable situation that you are yourself putting, like you said, the podcasts and things like that. Do you remember years ago when we first started working at Health Assured, and you'll remember this even being a bigger thing, why do you want to work at Health Assured? Break the stigma of mental health in the workplace. Like, that stigma's been and gone, but there's other things, and I spoke about it in a financial one. People still won't talk about finances, they don't talk about religion, struggle with sexuality, and certainly will not talk about race. So mental health, people would rather talk about that.
And then specifically women's mental health, they won't talk about men's mental health. This is a bunch of things that taboo off topic, uncomfortable, we don't like it. It's easier to stay in our lane. And it could be companies just trying small things, because all small things add up. But I do think that they do find it scary, and people find it scary to take that first step. But I think you just have to, whatever that step looks like. I think it's really important to just start.
I've got loads of things running through my brain right, so it just ended up being silent. I think I was just thinking then about, if there was, we're obviously here to talk about you as well, but just something, for anyone that's kind of struggling as well to get some kind of conversation and movement going. I do think something like that book club, for example, that we did at Health Assured, it was during, we were coming out of lockdown, I think, weren't we? Because then it was so we did everything via Zoom. I remember that we were doing it via video calls. So it was really good for that. But if you are worried about something like why I no longer talk to white people about race, because it's non-fiction, you might want to just get people back into the habit of reading, because people go to book clubs as well because they want to get back into reading. You know, maybe they love reading, they've just lost their passion for it. Go with a fiction option first, then the next month you can go into the non-fiction and go into Why I No Longer Talk to White People. So something like, so one of my favourite books was Black Flamingo, and it's just something I've just remembered there, and I read it twice, really easy to get into. I think it was like a what's it after, like the teen, like a young adult, YA book, and
like a coming of age book.
And it was young person of color, and also queer as well, and got into a drag scene, and it was also the challenges of being, I believe, it was mixed race. They were mixed race, and then coming out as well. It was great. It was a really digestible and easily received book as well, so you can just throw yourself into it. Really great aesthetics, and it was broken. There was like pictures on it. It reminded me of, you remember like Jacqueline Wilson books?
Oh yeah.
So you just smash them out really quickly. So that's a really good one, a really good way to spark conversation, and then that'll make people a little more comfortable. Yeah, they're still going to be, understandably uncomfortable discussing something like, Vini Edo-Lodge's Why I No Longer Talk to White People. So that's, I think, something like a book club, like that is a really good starting point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think like allied networks still internally,
They absolutely do work. I think giving people a space where they can talk about what the issues are that they face, whether it be in work or outside of work, and then they can talk about, things that they want to change. But what's important, if you do have a group of people that, ours is called Undivided, so the group of people that represent, equality and diversity in the workplace, you need to make sure that you can't just make the group. It has to be a herd group.
Yes. Yeah.
As in, give them a place to speak, whether that be directly to the CEO or directly to whoever that person is that can make actual real change.
Yeah.
It's all good and well saying, right, we've got that group over there, fantastic, we don't need to do anything else. But create the group and then give them that real opportunity to make some change.
Yeah.
And that's what I think
it's easy
to do.
It's easy to create the group. Everyone chomps at the bit for it, I'll be part of this, I'll be part of this, I'm part of it, as part of that. But it's what do we want to do with this group? How do we want to make the best out of this? And to be honest, I do try and keep away from it as well, because I want it to be colleague driven. I want it to be, driven by everyone, and not, stuffy
management
pen pusher
guided.
Like
Same.
So I just keep away from it. And if they want some money for something, then I'm like, I'll sort that. That's fine. But leave everyone to do what they want to do. But it's harnessing that and making sure that there is an outcome of some kind. Or even if you've got an objective, it might take 3 years to reach it or whatever, but have you got measurable kind of milestones that you want to achieve alongside that? And there's loads of guidance for that, online. If you've got one you're looking through for, sexuality, for example, I know Stonewall do, workshops. There's just workshops aplenty on how to get the best out of those internal networks for the underrepresented individuals. And you don't have to be part of that minority group to still be an ally and make change within that. And I think that's really important as well. But it needs to be a safe and welcoming place for those minorities to come and be part of. It's not being just driven by the ally. Like, ooh,
no, absolutely. And I think that's really important. And companies encouraging that, and then also it's not for the group on its own to try and accomplish everything there. It's for the companies to support that happening. Sorry. So I think it's
You okay?
I told you I'd joke.
I should have just ignored that and I'm gonna have a drink because I'll just
That's all right. So I think it's really
Do you want
important
that bit
for
cut in?
companies. Yeah, please. I think it's really important for companies to ensure that the groups are achieving what they're able to achieve.
Yeah.
Bringing back to institutionalized racism, it's not just the colour of people's skin that is affecting how they're treated. It's also, it might sound silly to some people, but it's also like their hair or the way they choose to look. One of the things that I have experienced, I used to have, as you know, really, really long afro giant hair.
Yeah.
Loved my hair. Shaved it all off.
Wildest day of my life, walking into that.
Every time I used to go to an interview, I'd tie my hair back.
Yeah.
Because people look at me differently when I've got
Yeah.
big hair, or when I'm dressed like that, or I choose to wear my hair like that. And it's about taking up less space. I think that's what it felt like for me. Like, I need to come in here and I need to take up less space. I need to be, less boisterous. I need to fit. And I definitely feel that's not why I shaved my hair.
I was going to say, oh my God.
That's not why I shaved my hair. But I definitely felt like that. And then once I started at Health Assured, obviously you don't know the company, do you? Once I started at Health Assured, I felt very welcome. I always had my hair out and as big as I could get it. And I've always felt very welcome there to dress or wear my hair any way that I want to wear. Once I wore a headscarf to work.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I wanted to wear a headscarf, because sometimes I wear that, really bright ones in my personal life. But it's things like that as well. It's there's people then, if we're talking about other races, there's obviously, Pakistanis and other races that do wear headscarves, and they feel very aware that they're wearing a headscarf when they go to an interview or go to a meeting, or wonder how people are going to look at them. So it's also, that within the workspace that I think some people just don't even consider, and you just go to work, you don't really think about it. Yeah. But actually it is on people's minds. And it's definitely affected me in the past. Yeah.
And you think about that as well, like, going to work, wearing whatever it is they wear as per, culture, have that, as aligned with the culture or religion or whatever. That is going to be, if we actually link this back in with things like mental health and emotional well-being as well, from the moment that they have their first screen, like a video screening or an interview in that business, that's going to be there constantly. What do they think about me? It'll throw them off. It'll put them off their game, however it is that they want to articulate themselves as a talented, skilled individual. I imagine that's constantly the back of their mind as they're being judged for X, Y, Z, or unconscious bias is going to start playing, it coming into play, or whatever that might mean. So it's
and
I can't even imagine that toll. I mean, sometimes I'm not trying to, what I'm trying to do is put things into scale. Like, my head goes to really extreme places because I am a young female. I'm like, who's going to take me seriously? Who's going to take me seriously in, the working world? So I cannot imagine then being a young female, young male, young, individual of any kind, that then is an ethnic minority or has a disability. I'm kind of thinking about all different, minorities here as well, having that on top of, it's just that pressure. Like, I'm already spiraling just thinking about that for them.
It's like another thing to consider before you go. And I feel like when you walk into them rooms, you're always putting your best self forward in an interview, obviously. That's how we get jobs. But you're also, I'm also, and I was putting a false self forward. So I didn't feel like myself, because I'm essentially hiding this big part of me that just, I don't know, made me feel really happy. And I was just trying to go in and be like a different person. And I don't like that. And I didn't like that. So that's why I was so happy when I did, when I actually started at Health Assured, and everyone was absolutely lovely. But I remember at my previous job, when I remember someone saying to me like, "Oh, your hair's really big," and my first response was, "Oh, I'm sorry."
I'm sorry. Trying to brush it out. Sorry.
I don't know why I'm apologising for my hair, but that used to be my first response was, "Oh, I'm sorry." And it wasn't that they were saying, but it wasn't a compliment. It wasn't a compliment either. It was more of just an exclamation. Did you know that your hair is really big? Is it? Oh, right. Okay. Thank you. But something that was interesting, what I was talking to my partner about this morning was, yes, I shaved my hair for a different reason, just because I thought it'd be fun. However, ever since I've shaved my hair, no one has touched my hair, and it's such a relief.
That. Yeah.
to not be touched by strangers, which is a horrible thing to say. But
it's horrible that you have to say that.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being on the bus once and someone behind me just stroking my hair. And I said, sorry, what are you doing? And they're like, you have really nice hair. I said, please, can you not touch my hair? Turned back around, carried on doing it, and I had to move. And
They carried on
stroking my hair, which is absolutely baffling. People put like the whole hands in my hair before to feel all my hair. This is just like people walking
Imagine
past.
if you turned around and you say you didn't know me, you just did that to me.
I was just stroking your hair. Just like on the bus, I was just stroking your hair. A stranger you've never met before. And a lot of times it's men, women, young, old, like it doesn't matter. They would just touch your hair, which is absolutely bizarre. Because I can't imagine touching someone anywhere and then them saying, please don't do that. And then me going, I'm just going to carry on, it's absolutely baffling to me. So that's one of the things I do not miss about having long hair. And everyone seems to have just staying on the hair subject, but everyone seems to have an opinion. So, I could do what I want with my hair, but when I cut my hair, they were like, why have you done that? You know, you look so much better with curls. It was more fitting for you. I don't know what that means.
People said it was really
more fitting. Yeah. I don't know what that means, but it's just a really bizarre situation that you go through.
And is this in all aspects as well, not just from a work perspective?
Oh,
do you get it?
Yeah, no, all aspects. Strangers. The guy at my local co-op made a comment about the fact that I'd cut my hair.
Excuse
and
me?
He was like, oh, you look odd. I mean, I don't know what that means. Again, it's just, it's so bizarre, people having so much opinions about something that doesn't belong to them and then feeling like they can touch something that doesn't belong to them is a really bizarre situation. And I've experienced it all my life, and it got worse and worse as I got older. And then I've not had it since I cut my hair. It's been the best thing.
You can kind of see it, like, I bet. So as a little girl, as a child, did you have your afro then?
hair.
Yeah. And you kind of, not that it is acceptable at all, but cute little kids, like, oh, look, hair in bunches or braids or however it is they decide to wear, or out. It is not acceptable at all, but you can imagine the cooing over that. Oh, look, it's cute. Yeah. But then that carrying on, you are a grown woman. Like,
as a 30-year-old going to work, and then a stranger just being like, let me just stroke your hair. I've never felt curly hair before. It's really bizarre.
That's outrageous. It's made me think about something you said towards the start. More about your experience, just before I forget it. It was around, like walking, going into places, into rooms and stuff like that, and being aware that you are definitely, a minority in that situation, at least visibly, I guess, visibly a minority. Do you feel that, or do you experience that in, again, all aspects, whether social groups, friends and family and stuff like that? Do you feel that?
Yeah. So at work, a lot. I feel that a lot. Weddings. So one of my best friends from work, when they got married, I was the only person there.
Really?
At a whole wedding. I think it was like 200 people. It was a big wedding. I was like, how?
Yeah.
But,
come on, we're from Manchester. Very diverse city.
Not so much in my friend group. So my friends, the ones that I'm closest to, the two that I'm closest to are both black. Yeah. So not in my friends group. And then my partner is mixed race as well.
Yeah.
So not so much in my individual friend groups, but definitely if I go to like a friend, like a white friend's event, I'll definitely be the only person who is a minority there. And then definitely at work. And then also just at general events, which was weird. I went to the Manchester Arena once to watch a show, and I swear I looked around and I was the only person that I could see. That was a minority, which was really bizarre. I've not had that before either. But that does feel, I feel like I've become a bit more aware of what I'm doing and what I'm saying and how I'm acting. Not that I act out or in any way, but I kind of don't want the attention. if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
you don't want
I
the
can't just
focus
leave you
on-
alone here in the corner. Yeah.
Yeah. You are like that anyway. I mean, I know you, I think,
Yeah.
relatively well, especially from a work capacity. I know that you like to not keep yourself to yourself, but you are like, let me crack on and get on with this work and I'll do a really good job of it, but just let me just do it.
Just let me do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you kind of just then blend into,
Yeah.
you know, that gif of Homer Simpson just going into
that's
the
me.
hedges. You're like, right, here's everything. I'm going to do it. Just let me just go and do that now. You don't want any attention on you.
No.
Yeah.
Whereas with my family, actually, I'm really loud and I really like attention. And I don't think, I don't know if that's just the comfortableness of my family.
Yeah. And you've
but
had
I do
30 odd years to feel safe.
with
There's
them,
no threat there.
Absolutely. And then at work, I just, if I am the only person who's a minority in the room, I am just very aware.
Yeah.
And I will be quieter.
I mean, it's sad.
All right.
That's sad. That's just, and as well. Yes, you've worked there for a long time, but again, in the reality of it, you've not worked with every single person there for a very long time to build up that trust. To not see people as an immediate threat. And I assume, you're always on guard, especially when there's new people, new groups of people, new cohorts of people, whatever that you're introduced to or then have to work alongside. Maybe like basic instinct is to
there's
protect
a
yourself.
fear and a worry. So the fear is that someone's going to ask me something that they don't understand about something, or someone's going to make some sort of comment that I'm going to be offended by because everyone should be. And then I'm going to be the only one that's upset about it. And then everyone's going to think that I'm making a big deal about something. That's what I worry about. Especially like in a group of people I don't know, that doesn't really know me very well. For example, we went on the leadership trip recently and I took a silk pillowcase with me because it protects my curls. And I was so worried that someone was going to ask me why I've bought my own pillowcase. And I just really didn't want them to. And I ended up sharing a room with two of the girls from work that I know really well. And I was like, I'm really glad that I'm sharing the room with both of you. None of them ethnic minorities, but I just know them really well. I was like, because I've got my silk pillowcase, and they were just baffled that I would have to worry about that. And I was like, I just don't want the questions or the like, why are you so different? I just don't want to have to answer that question. I'm just like, go and learn. Stop asking me. I'm not your spokesperson.
And it shouldn't be. And it's kind of, what's the right word? It's not serendipity. I can't remember what it is. But so we're here and you're here joining me to talk about things to hopefully at least help one person, whether that is someone that is a minority, ethnic minority themselves that's struggling, or perhaps someone that is not an ethnic minority, take something away from this. But at the same time, it is not your job to also educate ignorant, uneducated, white people, basically. That's not your job, but it's a difficult one. It's like quite conflicting because it shouldn't be up to you, but I'm really glad that you are here today.
And I'm really happy to be here and talk about this situation, especially with someone like yourself, because I know that you take time to understand people's different cultures or the things that they might have gone through, and that's why this is a comfortable conversation. Whereas like some people don't take the time to do that, and I don't feel like I should have to explain myself to anyone like that. So that's why this is a nice situation to be able to talk to someone who understands.
Good. Going back, let me just cross at least one more of a talking point off.
Okay, yes.
We have gone in a much better direction than I'd hoped anyway. But what so if we talk about, title of this episode is Racism and Mental Health. Again, I'm literally going to be asking for about 2 minutes worth of coverage on that point as a whole, because it's really, I don't want to do it an injustice either. And let's cover everything to do with mental health and racism. But what has worked for you, or might be, work in progress for you, is something that mental health, kind of to provide context for everyone, we've touched on it before in episodes, but you may have one way of doing things, and then there comes a point where that isn't the right way of dealing with it for you anymore, that suits your circumstances and who you are as a person anymore. So constant evolve and adapt to what helps you as an individual. But what is currently, or has been, some approaches for you working on your mental health when it's associated with, you know, racism that you've experienced or that you're fearful of experiencing? What's your plan of attack? Or
So one of the things I do every day, which might sound a little bit strange to people that don't know of it, is I spoke to a counsellor once about taking up space. So do you know what I just talked about when I go into a room, and sometimes I'm worried about being the only person who's a minority there, and then taking up that space, or someone asking me a question, I kind of want to go back. And I do still feel that worry, but one of the things that I'm practicing is taking up space every day. So I get out of bed every day and I take up as much space as I can. So I stand like really big, and I blast my music and I take up as much space as I can, and just some deep breaths, and just remind myself that I'm allowed to take up space in any way that I'm taking up that space, whether that be just me as a woman, me as a mixed race woman. I'm allowed to take up space, and I'm allowed to have an opinion, and that's my right. And it makes me feel strong in the morning.
yeah.
And so I do that every morning. I'm sure my partner hates me blasting music sometimes, but I do that really regularly, and I think that helps me. One of the things that I think is really important is speaking about whatever it is that you've experienced. So I think a lot of people don't, and they think that it's normal.
Yeah.
That it becomes the norm for you to be stared at, or for a comment to be made. So then you just move on with your day. But actually, all them little things, well, I say little, that are building up, actually take a toll. And I think it's really important to speak to someone who maybe has experienced the same as you, or hasn't experienced it but understands what that feels like, or how that might affect you, because letting that off your chest and giving yourself that space and that right to talk through something, gives you the opportunity to recognize that it's not normal, and also that you have a right to not feel like you're being questioned or attacked every single day by anyone who's making comments. So it can be really helpful to, if something happens, even if you're just talking to your partner and just saying, this happened today, it's really bizarre that someone said this on the way to work, on the way home, or whatever, or talking to your manager. I talk to you a lot, and I find it really valuable to be able to talk to you at work, and then also just making sure that you're accessing any specialist support that you need. Depending on what you've experienced, it might be that you need a quick chat, or it might be that actually you need to delve into something deeper because it's triggered something for you, and not pushing that trigger aside. Everyone's triggered by things. It doesn't lessen you as a person. It doesn't make you not strong if you feel triggered. It's still just as important to get support for that, even if it didn't feel. I think we're really good at brushing things off as not important, and it doesn't matter if one goes through that. But if it's triggered you and you're upset, then please just access support for it. And that's what I do. I try and get the support as quickly as I can, because I feel like the quicker you act upon it, the less you've dwelled on it, and then the quicker you can let it out, let it go, like all the anger, because I feel really angry when people act like that towards me, or act inappropriately, and I just want to be able to let it go and tell someone else about it, so they can go, oh, that's crazy, actually, that's not normal, people can't say that, or that is rude, and kind of feel validated in the way that I'm feeling. So I'd hope that everybody else would be able to do that as well, whether it be picking up the phone, speaking to a friend, manager, whatever it is. Write it down. Oh, I'd love writing things down. Write it down, get it off your chest.
You are our stationery queen as well.
Just get it off your chest, let it all out.
Yeah.
Put it on that page and get it away from you, because you deserve to feel good. And I hate for anyone to make anyone feel bad.
What's on the writing things down, something that I learned just from my counsellor was I don't know if we're allowed to. I've sworn a few times on here, but like you've got your things like your gratitude journal, but then you've got your shit list as well.
Oh yeah.
Your shit list book, and then all the what feels poisonous, those things, the
negative thoughts,
the negative, that's in a set. Don't taint your beautiful, gorgeous gratitude journal with that. Have it as your shit list that you can.
Yeah.
Maybe one day you might just want to burn it or something. Who knows? Like whatever works for you, or you might just keep it. That whatever. But that's something that but that negativity needs to come out of you in some way. And one of those things, you might not be comfortable yet verbalizing that with someone and articulating it.
Yeah, and that's the thing as well. You have to verbalize the right person.
Yeah.
And that has to be a person that you're safe with.
Yeah.
Counselors are always your best bet, because they love helping people.
Yeah.
Our counsellors are amazing. And I hope that everyone's got that friend or someone that they could talk to, at least. But then obviously they've got the AP and they can access that support. But if you need to, I hope that everyone can find someone to talk to, and that's a safe person, that they're going to understand them and not dismiss how they're feeling, because that would make it worse for them as well. And I think if you experience things and then someone's dismissing them, I think that's what makes your mental health deteriorate as well. Because you've experienced something which you thought was really bad, or a negative experience, and then someone's kind of validated. Someone's said that you're wrong. So you think that you're silly, or that was you should be stronger than that, and then it'll happen again and you won't talk about it. It'll build up over time, and then over time it will make you a shell of yourself. You won't be your true self. You won't speak out or feel like you can just be yourself without questioning everything that you're doing. It damages your self-esteem.
Again, before I forget about it and before we do wrap up, it's something that's really important what you've just said there. It's for like anyone that's in a position where they're the person that someone's gone to say that this is, you've come to me. One of the most important things that you need to not do is not try and placate them by going, and I've done it before, may have done it with yourself as well, like, gosh, don't be daft, no one thought that, or no one said that, no one thinks that, Indigo. Instead, accept that that's how they're feeling, and that's how someone has perceived something, and advise them that you are there, you're listening. You're not necessarily going to feed into whatever narrative, whether that's the complete opposite or whatever. You're hearing them and you're there to listen. And once you might not have the specialist advice, that person's trusted you enough to come to you with their worries, their doubts, their thoughts. So don't try and brush it off to make them feel better and dismiss what may or may not have happened, because just as you said, that is going to feed into doubt, self-doubt and self-esteem issues. And am I making this up? Why does no one believe me?
I honestly think some people brush things off because it's easier.
Yes, and it's uncomfortable for them.
Have that uncomfortable conversation again. I think make sure that you're creating a safe space for people and understanding how they feel, like you said. Because although it is uncomfortable, and we'd like to think that nobody is racist, and that would be lovely. We'd like to think that, and we'd like to think that everybody that we work with has good intentions, it doesn't have that unconscious bias, would never say that, would never think that, but actually everyone is just another human being, and we're all capable of them thoughts, feelings, and them actions. So if someone who is struggling has had a racial slur thrown at them, or has had something happen, then you need to give the person that space to speak about that. I just want to say as well, it doesn't matter how big or small the issue is that the person's coming with. I think we've all got, I could tell you a million stories, but I think we've all got stories that we think, oh, this is really shocking. I think I told you this, but my partner's mixed race as well, and we were both walking to work one day, and a man who was white stopped us and congratulated us for sticking to our own kind, which is absolutely baffling. He was like, well done for sticking to your own kind on the way to work. Absolutely baffling. There's extreme stories like that, and then there's smaller things where a person might say, someone like you wouldn't understand this, and then you start to think, is that me? Am I imagining that's what that person meant? And that can make you really question that. And I think, as a manager, as a colleague, someone who's coming to you, it doesn't need to be the extreme. Them extremes do happen, but if they're telling you about something that's small that has happened to them, you still need to take that seriously and give them that space, because them things that happen over time, if they're not addressed, becomes the big thing. And I think that we just really need to make sure that we get that right as friends, colleagues, and organisations.
That's a really lovely stop me in my tracks there. That was, I don't really know what else to say after the back of that, because you literally, you literally ended that on such a, like a mic drop, but a beautiful mic drop of a moment. I think there's a lot. I think anyone that listens to this or watches this will take away, at the very least, how to support someone else, how to listen and just accept the feelings of someone that is experiencing or has experienced racism. I've walked away with tons from this, and we talk every single day.
Yeah.
And I've just learned a little bit more in that space of 30, 45 minutes, and just to be a better person and a leader as well. So anyone that's listening in that kind of position as well. So thank you. This has been, I'm a little bit choked up. I'm really proud of you as well for going. I know that this has pushed you outside your comfort zone.
Yes, it has, yeah.
Just generally speaking, let alone with, talking about such an important topic. I could have got you on to talk about spreadsheets with me. I think you would have been nervous.
I love spreadsheets.
And I think you still would have been nervous in this kind of setting. But, you just, really, really important piece there. And that's absolutely fantastic. Before I sign us off, is there anything else that you want to add, Indy? Or good?
I'm trying to remember if I went through all the things I wanted to talk about. It's hard to remember, to be honest.
Literally, I think we've covered so much and more. I'm looking at Bruna for, all happy. We got the thumbs up there. But
the only last thing I'll say, sorry, I just thought of an idea.
Go for it.
Organisations out there. Is maybe just take some time to just, celebrate other people's culture and take time to acknowledge that other people have different cultures. And the only reason I thought about it then is because I made some like Jamaican dumplings recently. Delicious, by the way, I'll bring you some. And someone said to me, sorry, I only eat normal food. That's
oh God,
that's weird food. So it's not weird food. It's Jamaican food. But it's just things like that. Like there's no normal food. All food is normal food. Because food is food. That's full stop. So I think if companies maybe or the groups could take more time to, I'm not saying they're not doing that, but just take some time to try and create awareness around culture as well as race, because culture and race kind of go hand in hand. There is that lack of understanding of people's races and the struggles that they've been through, and everyone's struggle has been different, and some people's have been much worse than others. But then also their culture alongside that, assuming that people eat particular things or assuming that someone's food is weird because it's not, I don't know, English food, for example. And most English people eat Italian food anyway.
I was going to say, or chicken tikka masala.
Exactly. I think we just shouldn't label other people's food or culture as weird.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand what the food is or what their culture is, the words to use are, it's sorry, not sorry, what's that food? I don't eat weird food. But it's, what ingredients have you used in this? Can you tell me about how you made it so I can learn more about what it is? And, actually, I don't like, I don't know, tomatoes and you've put tomato in it. That's absolutely fine. But let's not label other people's food as weird. I know that when I did bring my Jamaican dumplings in for 2 people at work. I know that I was very aware. I was worried that they might say something to me. Someone else did. But that I didn't bring them in for. But I was worried that they might say something or think I'm weird or think that my food is weird or think that I eat weird things and I'm at home making all these weird things and I'm just making normal food. I was just very aware all day that I had Jamaican food with me, and I try not to bring Jamaican food to work with me. Or my partner's from Barbados, so he eats Bajan food. I try not to bring Bajan food with me in case someone thinks, what is she eating? Which is, I don't want anyone to feel self-conscious about. And I just think that if we could create more awareness around culture as well as race, that would make it, I think that would make a fundamental difference to how people feel in the workplace. I think people would feel more comfortable.
That's something that we should do back when we get back to work.
We could have like a food festival Friday.
Oh my God.
In which we celebrate a particular culture. Let's do Jamaica, for example. We'll have like a Jamaican festival on a Friday and we'll have like loads of Jamaican food. And then we could just, and then I don't know, I'm throwing ideas at you now for work, but like what if we had like, it's like the origin of the food and where it came from, and do you know what I mean? And then we could just learn more.
So say, for example, hopefully people that listen to this might get some idea of how to adapt this to their organisational structure. But so our different teams, so you could have clinical support, you're in charge of dessert, So you've got to go
Yeah.
away and you've got to bring 5 dessert dishes and you've got to tell us all about them when you come in. It's almost like, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that people did in primary school. People need to be reminded. You know, when people
Yeah.
do projects,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I love doing projects, and people, as soon as they leave year 6, that's it. Awareness of researching and looking into things and learning everything that they can about a place or a culture or a group of
It
people,
just
whatever.
goes,
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I love this idea. Oh my God.
I would
Okay.
also love this idea.
Yeah. Well, let's make this happen. And anyone else that's listening or watching, definitely do it. And send your pictures on the address envelopes.
Yeah.
Address envelope. Stamped address envelope. What is it? Postcards. Yeah, answer on a postcard, please. Oh yeah, tag us on Instagram.
Tag us on Instagram, yeah.
That would be the easiest way. Okay.
I think that's it. Like I said, I can talk to you for hours and hours about everything that I've been through, or how people have been affected, and how I've been affected, and how our partner's been affected. My niece is Pakistani, well, half Pakistani, and so she's had like completely different experiences. But it would be a very long podcast.
Well, we can revisit this. Hint, hint, Bruno. We'll get more things on the list. We've got about 4 years worth of content with all these episodes.
We'll do racism for 4
I love
months.
it. I love it. I just want to say a huge thank you. Again, I keep saying it. I'm really, really so happy, like delighted that you came and joined me for this.
Thank you.
For so many reasons. And I really hope, and I'm very confident that people listening and watching will at least take one thing away from this. Even though that's to have a food festival at work, then you know what?
Be
That's
kind
progress.
to everyone.
Be kind to everyone. Okay, Brill. Thanks, Indigo.
Thank you.